Few war films ever pushed reality as far as The Train did. It wasn't just another World War II drama. It was a dangerous experiment in authenticity, where explosions were real, locomotives were destroyed for real, and tempers behind a camera nearly derailed the production. What began as a cerebral story about stolen art became one of the most physically punishing shoots in film history. Tonight, we're diving into the smoke, sweat, and sabotage that made The Train 1964 one of the wildest productions ever committed to celluloid.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell.
Number 1. It redefined realism forever. Critics weren't ready. Every crash, spark, bruise, real. Pauline Kael said, "It moves like steel and breathes like smoke." Directors from Spielberg to Nolan cite it as a blueprint for authentic war. Lancaster called it his peak. Frankenheimer said it nearly broke him. Together they created a film powered by obsession. Real trains crashed. Real bridges fell. Nothing was pretend. The Train didn't just depict realism, it invented it for modern cinema. Number 2. It was nearly destroyed by fire. During editing, an electrical fire burned through the Paris facility. Assistant editor Henri Leno ran into the smoke to save the original negative. He came out burned, carrying the canisters. For days, no one knew if the film had survived. Miraculously, only a few work prints melted. The negative was intact. A film about saving art nearly burned itself. Number 3. Filmed in real resistance locations, actual wartime rail yards, real tunnels used by the resistance, real workers who sabotaged Nazis acting as extras. One pointed to bullet holes and said, "That's where my brother fell." Frankenheimer froze. This wasn't just filmmaking, it was remembrance. The Train was shot inside history itself. Number 4. The plane crash was real. That burning fighter plane beside the tracks? Not a model. The crew bought a real aircraft, rigged it with explosives, and launched it on a rail catapult. Wind conditions shifted dangerously, but cameras rolled. It crashed yards from the crew. Lancaster ran through actual fire, his costume catching real embers. Universal thought it was faked. It wasn't. The wreck smoldered for 2 days. Number 5. Lancaster and Frankenheimer fought daily. They were fire and gasoline. Arguments exploded over camera angles, pacing, even pauses. Crew heard shouting from miles away, then saw them laughing minutes later. One fight turned into brilliance. Lancaster refused to wait for lighting during a derailment scene. He performed early. Frankenheimer chased them with a handheld camera, and it became one of the film's best shots. They hated each other. They needed each other. Their war made the movie a masterpiece. Number 6. The film nearly wasn't finished. Budget blown. Tracks destroyed. Real locomotives wrecked. French authorities demanding compensation. Universal threatening to shut it down. Lancaster's company paying out of pocket. Cold rain, exhaustion, near mutiny. Frankenheimer editing at night to prove the film could be saved. When Universal saw the rough cut full of raw realism and unprecedented destruction, they backed off. The film survived against all odds. Number 7. Lancaster risked his life driving a real locomotive. For one shot, he insisted on driving a full-size train himself. French engineers warned him the braking system was unstable. He ignored them and drove anyway, through real smoke and sparks, stopping inches from the camera crew. His hands blistered from heat. Frankenheimer told him he was insane. Lancaster replied, "That's why you hired me." One take. Perfect. Number 8. The Nazis spoke real German, a rarity in the 1960s Hollywood. Frankenheimer insisted German soldiers speak authentic German, not accented English. He hired bilingual actors and even recruited former German soldiers living in France. Subtitles were minimal, making audiences rely on tone and performance. The effect? The Germans felt real, human, organized, tired, not cartoon villains. Number 9. Jean Tournier's cinematography was a technical feat. Filming fast-moving trains with heavy cameras in 1963 was extremely difficult. Tournier invented shock-absorbing mounts so cameras could withstand vibration at high speed. Some were bolted to locomotive sides inches from spinning wheels. Others were hidden in coal cars for tracking shots impossible at the time. Natural light was used for many sequences, meaning if a cloud passed, the shot had to be redone. Results gave the train its ferocious realism. Number 10. It was filmed in black and white on purpose. By 1964, color was the standard, but Frankenheimer insisted on black and white. He believed color would romanticize war. Black and white emphasized soot, metal, oil, sweat, the texture of conflict. It echoed wartime newsreels and heightened the contrast between priceless art and brutal machinery. The gamble paid off. Critics praised its raw, documentary-like aesthetic. Number 11. Frankenheimer nearly quit midway. Despite his control, he almost walked away. The schedule was brutal, the pyrotechnics relentless, and the clashes with Lancaster constant. After a tense derailment sequence argument, Frankenheimer packed his bags and planned to leave France. Producer Harold Hecht intervened, reminding him no other director could survive the chaos. Frankenheimer stayed and later said, "Burt was difficult, but he was right. The train had to keep moving." Number 12. Real towns were blown apart. The French government allowed production to destroy several obsolete rail depots and rural stations scheduled for demolition. Frankenheimer used the opportunity like a kid with dynamite. Entire facades were wired with explosives and filmed collapsing in slow motion. Local townspeople were hired as extras, watching their landmarks vanish for art. The director called it controlled vandalism. After filming, many locals thanked him. The sets had disguised decaying buildings that were later rebuilt with studio funds. In one sense, the train didn't just depict destruction, it financed rebirth. Number 13. Frankenheimer designed shots like a war photographer. Instead of traditional Hollywood framing, he filmed the train as though documenting a real conflict. He positioned cameras in trenches, mounted them on rail cars, and even hung them off cranes above explosions. He insisted on long takes with moving cameras to mimic the unpredictable rhythm of combat. The style was radical for 1964. Handheld, gritty, unglamorous. He studied World War II combat photography and told his crew to shoot like newsmen, not cinematographers. The approach gave the film a documentary realism years before cinema verite became fashionable. Each plume of smoke and screech of metal feels captured, not staged. Number 14. Lancaster did nearly all his own stunts. Audiences assumed the gritty stunts came from doubles. Wrong. Burt Lancaster, a former circus acrobat, performed almost every dangerous sequence himself, sprinting across moving trains, hanging from ladders, diving between tracks. Insurance agents panicked. Frankenheimer secretly kept medics nearby on standby. In one take, Lancaster leapt between two speeding cars just as they curved. His foot slipped and he narrowly avoided being crushed. The crew froze until he stood up laughing. "You can't fake fear. The camera always knows," he told a reporter. Reckless, brave, and very Lancaster. His authenticity bleeds into every frame. The grime, the sweat, the peril, all real. Number 15. French resistance veterans supervised the story. While Hollywood often romanticized resistance tales, the train had authenticity in its DNA. Frankenheimer hired a consultant who had fought in the French resistance to ensure the tactics and sabotage were genuine. He advised on derailment method, code signaling, and the psychology of living under occupation. His guidance shaped key scenes, especially the sequence where railway workers subtly delay German transports without overt defiance. This realism made the train unique. Instead of action hero fantasy, it showed quiet defiance, the small acts of rebellion that define real courage. The veteran reportedly wept after seeing the completed film, saying it captured the fatigue, the fear, and the faith that it mattered. Number 16. Every explosion was real. Frankenheimer didn't trust special effects. Every detonation scene in the train was filmed practically, often using real munitions. He worked with French demolition experts who placed charges on authentic bridges, locomotives, and rail yards scheduled for decommissioning. The results were unpredictable. Some blasts blew windows miles away. Frankenheimer kept the cameras rolling through chaos, capturing clouds of real debris. During one explosion, falling shrapnel narrowly missed cinematographer Jean Tournier. Another destroyed a historic rail tower earlier than planned, forcing the crew to rewrite an entire scene. The realism is startling even today. Those sparks, those collapsing timbers, none of it was added later. When the movie says war destroys everything, it means it literally. Number 17. Burt Lancaster filmed while injured. Halfway through production, Lancaster tore a knee ligament while playing golf. Not on set, but during his downtime. Most actors would have postponed filming. Lancaster refused. He redesigned scenes so his limp became part of the character. Watch closely. His gait changes midway through the movie. Frankenheimer adjusted camera angles and blocking to disguise the swelling, but in long shots, the limp is clear. Rather than hide it, they used it. The injury gave his resistance fighter a weariness that fit the story. Lancaster joked, "It was the best method acting I ever did by accident." The injury healed months later, but the authenticity it added remains unforgettable. Number 18. A real train was actually crashed. No miniatures, no models. A real train. When the film shows a locomotive smashing head-on and exploding, that's exactly what happened. The French National Railways donated decommissioned rolling stock for filming, and Frankenheimer insisted on one-take realism. Engineers calculated the exact speed for maximum impact, and the sequence was captured with multiple cameras from hilltops and tunnels. It was a logistical nightmare. Hundreds of extras were cleared miles away, and once the engines collided, there was no do-over. The resulting footage, mangled steel, plumes of smoke, cars toppling like dominoes, became the film's signature shot. No CGI, no trick photography, just raw mechanical violence. Hollywood has rarely matched it since. Number 19. Burt Lancaster directed some scenes himself. Lancaster wasn't just a star, he was practically a co-director. His production company, Hector Hill Lancaster, financed the film, giving him unusual authority on set. When Frankenheimer joined, Lancaster still controlled logistics and action sequences. He choreographed stunts, supervised camera angles, and personally approved every explosion. Crew members joked that the train had 2 engineers at the throttle. While Frankenheimer focused on visuals and tension, Lancaster demanded realism. No models, no fakery. He even rewrote lines on the spot if he thought they sounded too Hollywood. Their collaboration was stormy but productive. Out of that friction came one of the most authentic war films ever made, powered by 2 stubborn men who refused to compromise. Number 20. The director was replaced mid-shoot. The train began under a completely different vision. Arthur Penn, later known for Bonnie and Clyde, was the original director. His version focused on philosophical themes, the moral cost of war, the value of art, and human conscience. But star Burt Lancaster hated it. He wanted an action picture. After 3 weeks of filming, he fired Penn and brought in John Frankenheimer, with whom he'd worked successfully before. Frankenheimer arrived to find a half-finished art film and a furious crew. He rewrote the script overnight, axed the internal monologues, and amped up the explosions. Within days, the tone shifted from brooding drama to gritty realism. It was a brutal transition, but it saved the movie. Without that mutiny, the train might have been a quiet essay on art instead of the roaring, smoke-choked spectacle we remember. It was nearly destroyed by a fire. After surviving explosions, train crashes, and endless delays, the train almost didn't survive post-production. In 1964, while editing in a Paris facility, an electrical fault sparked a small fire that spread through the film storage room. Smoke filled the corridors, and the heat warped several reels before editors could reach them. Assistant editor Henry Leno reportedly ran into the flames to save the original negative, emerging with burns and the film canisters intact. For days, they didn't know what had been lost. When technicians inspected the reels, only a few work prints had melted. The master negative was safe. Frankenheimer called it the last miracle. Ironically, a movie about preserving art from destruction had nearly burned itself to ashes. The incident became legend in French film circles. Leno's quick thinking was never officially recognized, but cast and crew toasted him at the wrap party months later. Without his bravery, the train might have become another lost film of the 1960s. Instead, it rolled into history scorched, scarred, but miraculously intact, just like the locomotives it immortalized. When the train premiered, critics weren't ready for its brutality. Every crash, every spark, every drop of sweat was real. Audiences gasped at the sheer physicality. No matte paintings, no soundstage illusions, just machinery colliding and men breaking under weight. Pauline Kael called it a film that moves like steel and breathes like smoke. Frankenheimer had captured the unglamorous essence of war. Not glory, but exhaustion. Its influence rippled through generations. Directors from Steven Spielberg to Christopher Nolan cited it as a blueprint for realism, a film where authenticity was a special effect. Decades before CGI, Frankenheimer made destruction poetic through danger alone. Behind the camera, the legacy was personal. Lancaster viewed it as the peak of his career. Frankenheimer saw it as a project that nearly broke him, but proved his mastery. Together, they forged a movie that turned mechanical chaos into art. When you watch The Train today, it still feels alive. Not just a film, but a machine of motion and human defiance. It didn't just depict realism, it redefined it, permanently changing how war could look, sound, and feel on screen. Behind the soot and metal, The Train was powered by obsession, a film made by men who refused to fake anything. Real trains crashed, real bridges fell, and one star risked everything for authenticity. It's a reminder of a lost Hollywood when filmmakers gambled with danger to capture truth. So next time you watch that black and white chaos of smoke and steel, remember none of it was pretend. It was all real. The stadium lights felt hotter than usual, buzzing like they were feeding off the chaos below. Every seat was shaking from the stomping crowd, and even the commentators sounded breathless, trying to keep up with what was happening on the field. Nick Harrow tried to stretch out his hamstrings on the sideline, but every movement made him wince. His teammates kept checking on him, yet he insisted he was fine, even though everyone could tell he was battling through serious pain just to stay in the game. Old Dominion's coaches were scrambling on the sidelines, throwing helmets, pointing fingers, and demanding explanations. Their frustration was visible from across the stadium, especially after back-to-back plays where their defense completely collapsed. At one point, the crowd got so loud that players couldn't even hear the snap count. Fans were standing on their seats, waving signs, yelling at the refs, and recording everything with shaky hands, knowing every second could turn into a viral clip. Meanwhile, the police officers on the sidelines were dealing with chaos of their own. One officer slipped while trying to separate players, nearly crashing into a coach. Another was caught on camera laughing after accidentally body-checking a player earlier in the game. The mascot incident didn't stop either. Fans kept passing the Wells bucket mascot around the stands, tossing it like a beach ball at a concert. Security tried to get it back, but the crowd treated it like a trophy, refusing to let the fun die down. The second half felt like a completely different sport. Penalties came out of nowhere, players were arguing with refs, and both sidelines looked like powder kegs ready to explode. Every play was either incredible or a disaster. South Carolina refused to slow down. They kept scoring aggressively, almost as if they were trying to prove a point. Every touchdown pushed Old Dominion deeper into panic, their defense scrambling like they were trying to plug holes in a sinking ship. Medical staff rushed on the field multiple times as players dropped from cramps, collisions, or exhaustion. The trainees barely had time to catch their breath before another incident forced them back into action. It was a kind of night that didn't feel real. Too chaotic, too loud, too unpredictable. A night where anything could happen, and some things did happen that no one could have imagined. When the final whistle blew, the players looked stunned. Not because of the win, but because of everything that happened getting to it. South Carolina walked off the field victorious, but everyone in that stadium walked away with the story they'd be telling for years.